Live, baby, live.
Live, live.
There you go. Yeah, we should be pretty much connected by now. Yeah. Fun times. Here we are.
Exactly. Fun times right here. Uh,
Yeah. How you doing today? What's going on? Welcome, world.
I hope you're all being happy.
I mean, tears this season, right?
It is uh, coming up with the big.
Are you lost of words?
Yeah, I'm a loss for words today. Trying to figure out, the entertainers, the people we put out, the things, the glitches we have sometimes as agents, um, and trusting and understanding that your entertainers, whatever type of entertainer you're putting out, are going to do their best job and come through for you. And so, who are you working with? And do you only work with people you know should be able to do the gig, or where we're hiring? And
Well,
uh,
before you start getting into all that, why don't you just say what happened and then we can go from there, right? Like I mean, what you're talking about right now, I mean, like no one's with you, right? I mean, like, I'm not with you. I don't
and
know what
being
the
an
hell's going
entertainer,
on.
okay, let's just give a scenario. Calm down, Scott.
Wake
Calm
up,
down,
buddy.
Scott.
Wake up. Like, golly.
Okay, let's say we're agents, so we send out an entertainer to an event. We expect the entertainer to be professional, do all this stuff, show up on time, do his job. It could be a girl, do their job, and leave. So that's what we expect for your, a DJ or a clown or a juggler or a magician. We expect our entertainer to show up and be there on time, ready for the event when it
So
opens.
for those of you that may want a guide, right? So if you run a DJ company, if you run a talent agency, and what I have is called a staff talent agreement, right? So on an earlier video on this channel, right, I had a list of things that I had went over with what I wanted for my company. So if you're looking to communicate with, people that you hire or with other people that you work with of what you're expecting, we have a code of conduct. Now, that may seem like a little too much. Like, what are you doing? You're telling these people what to do? Well, basically, a code of conduct is, so that you have all the information up in the air, what's to be expected, so that, you know, you expect somebody to be able to do something, and yet if not everything is written out, they may not understand the world the way that you understand the world. So it's best to sit down and go over what is to be expected so that you don't have any hiccups when you're going to a gig or performing at a show. So what happened to Jeff was that he got a complaint, and that before he jumps on the gun with his talent, because Jeff likes to hire talent that's top tier and they've been in the business. And when you become a business owner, you'll realize that the younger talent or younger generation just in general doesn't have the experience, so or they don't understand how the world operates, or maybe they think the world operates from what they see on TikTok or Instagram, right? Well, somebody who's older, who has done what it takes to be recognized as a professional in their field, you would expect them to, be able to execute a show without having to go over any code of conduct, but yet you still go over it with them just so you're on the same page. And if you've been around and in the business, there's things you don't have to worry about or shouldn't. Well, you wouldn't think, right? You wouldn't think you'd have to worry about, showing up on time and making sure you have enough stuff to be able to do the show. And yet Tharpo over here has an incident that he's dealing with, and I'll let him take it from here.
Yeah, so we won't go too much in it, but somebody's accusing one of my entertainers that they were drunk, so drunk that they had to send him home. And so back and forth, back and forth. I'm still working on getting to the bottom of it because uh, somebody should know, especially a seasoned pro, uh, whatever he needs to do to be professional, they need to do. And I don't hold their hand at after they've been doing it 30 years. If they have a 30-year record and they've performed in some of the biggest places and most people consider them the best, then I don't really worry about them. I call that a no-brainer. I just hire them, say, here's the gig, this is the time, here's your contact. And yet, I get a complaint, which this is the first complaint like this in 40 years. 40 years that somebody said the entertainer goes to a gig and just goes and drinks and doesn't do, none of the skills that's entertainer has, he didn't use. All he did was drink their liquor and then get so drunk he couldn't stand up or do a trick, and he didn't do any. And I've never heard of that happening ever, that it was the truth, that the client says this happened, and I'm still working on getting to the bottom of it. I do not believe, and they're going to supposedly check it out to the person who supposedly was a server to him to find out if he is doing drinking liquor. And that's where we're at now. Then the next thought, with that said, it would, and this is a question, the ethical question, and I asked another entertainer out of Houston yesterday, what would he do? Because he's got the same kind of company in Houston that I do, and I asked him, would you blackball a person like this? I don't want to ever blackball anybody, but I assume I'm going, and I'm not doing it right now. I need to know all the truth, and I'm just going to call one person because I know they'll use them and just say, here's what it is. It's not my job to crucify him or make him, but they need to be aware if he's doing this at events, because my client is really a my client had six people talking to me, and they're very upset, and I need to get to the bottom of it, because I'm here fighting for my entertainer, because clients come and go but entertainers stay for 20, 30 years.
Say
So
that again, real slow, so that everybody can hear it.
listen, entertainers that you have stay for 10 to 30 years in your industry. Your clients will come and go. My average client's 10 years, but if you're in 30 years and you have a 10-year client, yet these entertainers will be there, if they're good entertainers, for 10 to 30 years. And my entertainers are more important to me than my clients, because clients come and go and you can mess up a client. And yet my reputation is, and 90% I'm going to pay these people back, or more. I'm losing money on the deal no matter what. But that's not the point. The point is your reputation, and the point is hiring the people who have a reputation and are professional. Now, what they're saying to me is this guy was totally unprofessional, and I have never come across this in 40 years of entertainment, that this really happened. So I still trying to figure out the bottom of it, because I need to know my next step. Next step, it's not to go crucify the guy, but call a few agents I know who uses him and say, just heads up. Because I love the guy. He's a good friend of mine. And that's not the point. The point is, if you can't go to an event and do the event without getting drunk and falling down or something like that, you don't
And
need.
if that's true, wouldn't you want
If
to tell
that's
everybody
true,
else so that doesn't happen to them, other people in
yes,
the business?
right, right. And I'm not going to call everybody on earth and try to hurt him, but I'm going to call a few people just to warn them, because it's a sad thing. It really is a sad thing. And again, he's truly a friend, but but I don't think it's right, even if you're a friend, to go hurt others, because this is like one of the biggest hit ever on my company, that somebody's claiming this. Now, what I really believe, there's it's in the middle. I think both of them are wrong in a certain way, and I just need to figure out what that whole story is. But the question is, why would somebody show up, an entertainer, show up and not do anything? I mean, you're there anyway, might as well get your money, right?
I don't think you explained that the client said he didn't know magic.
No, he
I don't,
said,
they, I,
yeah, I didn't say that.
I don't think you explained that in this.
Okay, so let's go in. The client also said that he's a magician, but he didn't do one magic trick, not even one, not anything. And so, so I tend to not think that's true. supposedly they might have had cameras in the room, and I said, please check that because I need to talk to him again today, and I need to find out if he did drink liquor. Now, entertainer can drink sodas or anything non-alcoholic because you can't let an entertainer die of thirst or something, or he can't do his job right. Usually if I'm going to an event, I have a cooler of stuff myself because I'm going to be there 2 or 3 hours and I don't want to bug them. But my other entertainers are a little, upper rank than I am. I'm pretty high rank for a clown, but I don't have the status of some of these guys. But usually it's okay for an entertainer to go say, "Hey, can I get a soda or something like that?" And he did. Supposedly, he got two drinks, and they're saying they were alcoholic, and he's saying they're not. Basically, one's a Diet Coke and one's a club soda.
Here's something else I'd like to bring to everybody else's attention. Jumping to assumptions. I think we covered that in a few other videos where this information was brought to him, and well, it is a client, it is someone who's paying, so he didn't just jump on it and say, "Oh, this is fact," right? No, he's like, "Well, let me go do my research." Is something else that I struggle with some people in my circle too, is that they like to jump to assumptions, and without all the information, it's not as simple. Like and I feel that when people jump to assumptions that they're trying to shorten the process. Like, oh, that must be the answer. Let's go with that. Where that may not always be the case. And in order to, find out what actually happened, you have to do some more research, and it may take longer and it may be annoying, yet
It's important.
it's important. And with this, and in particularly with this situation, um,
It's
you would
two
want
reputations. It's two
you would want to know for
reputations.
sure. Yeah,
My
you would
company
want
reputation and the entertainer's reputation. So they're claiming something that could be detrimental to both our companies. His individual and me being an agent. If I'm putting out people who can't do their job, then who would want to hire me? More than likely, I'm not going to get this client back either way. Yet, I'm going to do the right thing at the end, no matter what. Whatever the right thing is,
yeah,
I'll figure that out because in business, you always want to be right. I mean, you do the
as
best
close to right as
you always,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's not,
right.
right now, it's not clear exactly what's right here. And hopefully today I'm going to have another meeting with them that they will have the answers that I asked for, and which was,
So
yeah, it was
yeah.
basically finding out the information.
So
Again,
he's going to go ahead and get some more research and make sure to
right,
stay tuned, and we'll have another update for you next week.
on
Now
that.
to now that you know that these things can happen, and I'm sure these things happen to everybody, it's to minimize these, right? Like, let's talk about minimizing these. You you want you want something like this. It's a service staff agreement is what I have. Now, again, like I was saying before, these are the code of conduct that I had put together. Now, I did put the link for this in the description of the video, so if you want to download this and maybe run it through AI with your own, rules and regulations, or however things work for your town or how things work for your industry, this is a great starting point. And then of course you can go from there depending on what makes sense for your business. Now, with this being said, I had hired a few people recently, and they did a few things where I was like, okay, and I did assume, yeah, I did assume because they were older that I didn't have to go over all this stuff, and well, shame on me, right? And then the things they did do, I would talk to some other people like, oh, you think they're that ignorant to what happened? And I was like, well, I have to say yes because I didn't go over it, right? You could go your whole life and not have to worry about the things that I'm going to talk about here in a second, and then they wouldn't have dawned on them, or maybe they did know and thought they could get away with it. Either way, shame on me because I didn't go over it and I didn't get it signed. So let's handle that, right? So I had two individuals over the weekend that did, or over the weekend, I that did a few things, and I'll tell you what they were, and then I sat them both down. Here's something else too. I was talking to another business owner, and he has these videos, right? These other people that work for him have to go and watch these videos on their own time. And I was like, "You don't pay them to watch these videos?" He goes, "No, they have to come over and do it." Then why the hell? Like, what the hell? Like you want them to spend time with you, and you're not going to pay them to do it? So with this talent agreement, I invited them over and I bought them a meal. Like I didn't pay them to be there, but I did pay them to do the shows they did. And it was like, well, if you want to continue to work with me, I'll buy you a meal. Why don't you come out and then we'll talk about the things. Now, again, I went over everything that was in that paper, and if you want to see what it is, you can go ahead and download it, add it to your own. And the two things, okay, so one guy did two things, and then me and another colleague were talking about those two things, and we're like, that's kind of weird. But the first thing was he did an event and he played 45 minutes over the time. And then I was like, why did he play 45 minutes over the time? Because he wanted to, snuggle up to the client. Like, oh yeah, oh, they're going to think that we went above and beyond, and then they'll be able to book us next year. What the person said. And well, me and the other guy were like, well, we've been over this. If they didn't schedule their party a certain way, then that's kind of on them, and then we would have charged them extra money to go the extra time. Again, I didn't go over this with him, so he wouldn't have known. And then the second thing he did, uh, now mind you, there's a million things right he did. I'm not going over that right now, but there's a lot of right things there. Like number one, he showed up early. He was set on time. He went on Facebook and tagged us all, and showed love to us all wearing our logos, right? He did all of those things. I was like super impressed with all those things. Now, this last thing he did was that when he was at the event, he gave out his own phone number instead of giving out one of ours. And to his defense, he did tell us, and he didn't have any of our business cards. And he did say, I didn't know what to do in the time, so I just gave out my number. And I didn't cover it. And that's one
Cover
situation.
that real quick. Just
Yeah,
step.
go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Here's what. Yeah. Okay. So
My
a lot
fault for
of
not
times,
covering it for sure.
okay.
Like,
Another thing that you can do to stop that is actually before the guy goes out and does a gig, you have them a form if they want overtime. All the client has to do is sign it. They just need a signature from somebody that said they're giving them permission and they will be paid for their extra
yeah, I
time.
should probably make a form that says sign this if you want
Yeah,
to. Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
a lot of people do have that because I've
Oh,
have given
and
to
one thing to
several
note,
times.
like you just can't go overtime at a corporate event because they have to pay for the bar, the room, the
Right.
hotel. Like there's a whole
And
lot of
right,
like this.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're causing some trouble and you might get in trouble for
And
that.
another thing, somebody could tell you they're the client and they could not be.
Yeah. So uh so a lot of times they're not going to sign something if they're not the client, because that's illegal. So if they sign something that is illegal to do, to say I'm going to pay you, because now they are liable to pay you if that's a real name. So, but I
Anyway, the guy went 45
anyway,
minutes over because he was, trying to go above and beyond for the client.
truly what I would do if you really want to keep yourself from getting in trouble, you find your contact and say, do you want overtime? And if
Yeah,
they say yes, the contact name is the person in charge because they have been put in charge by somebody to be your contact.
sure.
You go to the contact and say, well, we usually have the contact sign this. And you've already met the contact 2 hours ago, so you know. Okay, so that's the way to get out of that. Working overtime, what it does again, without getting permission, it sets a precedent for other events that they're going to expect they won't even hire that time because they think it's going to be free. Okay. And what Scott just said too, you might be hurting the entire flow of the whole thing because they need to shut down, because if they don't get out of there in time, they're going to have to pay another $2,000 for the space, or 500 or whatever it was, because there is a setup and breakdown, because then a whole crew comes in and breaks down the whole room till it's
Because they
nothing.
got to flip it for the next event.
Right. So if they're let's just say they're supposed to be there, but there's 40 minutes over and there's 20 people losing 40 minutes time. So that could cost way more than your that. So I agree with that. Then there's a lot of
And
things
and then
why
there's the well, I couldn't get this guy because he's already booked, and now the next guy's got to come in, and they're going to expect him to go more time. Like what? So it just kind of degrades what's going on. Now there is a caveat, right? Like so if there's a client that does multiple events with me, and they want a little extra, well, I'm not going to be petty about it. So I'll come out of my own pocket to pay the guy that's there. just to make sure that I have a bigger client happy. Like, and that doesn't happen too often, but that's something to keep in mind. And I did bring that up in the conversation as well. So that's the first thing, right? Then the second thing was he handed out his own number. And well, it's not like he
I got
hid
something for
it.
that too.
He didn't hide it. Like he said he just didn't know what to do.
Okay, now, yeah, now we go over it, and we won't crucify for somebody who doesn't know what to do. We tell them, and if they do it again, then we crucify.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
but
yeah.
now he was totally honest. So you
Yeah.
know, totally honest. So you always be honest with your agent, no matter what. If something happens weird, you call them and say, "I don't know what happened, but this happened," just to give you a heads up if they're going to get a call. Whatever it was. So always tell your agent what the heck you did if you didn't do if something went different. Okay. The other thing is about the card thing. If you don't have a card, you definitely don't give out your number at all. You say, "Here, I'm going to write down," because somewhere in his brain, he's got Scott's number. He would have wrote, "This Scott King is the owner of this company, and here's his number if you need anything." That's what I would have done. And that's what I want my entertainers to do, to say, "Look, the name of the company, if nothing else, say Scott Entertainment. If you just
Yeah,
look,
he was wearing a shirt. You could have
yeah,
been
yeah,
like,
but but okay, sometimes at the spur of the moment, when somebody asks you something, your brain
yes,
just goes into overdrive. "Give me a number." I say, "Oh, okay, here's my number."
yes,
And then
exactly, exactly.
again, if this
And this
guy's
guy is a
legit,
little
listen.
sporadic, like you,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
You could,
but here's the thing, though. If he gets that call, he's going to say, "Well, right now I can't take this call, but I can give you Scott because I cannot do anything here. I gave you a number, and I was just at spur moment." But he would call you and say, "Here's that guy's number."
yeah, yeah,
That's happened before, because a lot of times, and I'm going to say at least 30 or 40 in my career, that an entertainer calls me and said, "These guys are trying to hire me direct." Because if they hire them direct and they go, I'll blackball them off my list. I won't hire them again. I won't, because if you can't be loyal to, and I've worked through 72, at least 72 other agents, and I do the same thing. I would never put out my card or anything at their event.
So there's that one person, right? And
Yeah.
there's one thing to know too, like it's like the intent. I was trying to trying. Yeah.
Working on.
No, 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 I was trying. I was trying to I was trying to explain
You
this
didn't do it.
to another. Yeah, it didn't happen, right? I was trying to explain the intent, right? So it matters about intent. Like, okay, these things happen, but what was the intent? Right. The intent was I was trying to do good, right? Like my goal was to do good. My goal was to do
Right.
whatever the company standards were. I didn't know what the company standards were, so this is what I did. And I worked for multiple companies and everybody's different. Right. So and that's very true. Like and another note, like this guy travels like across the country to make gigs. So and then another thing too, this is all he does. Like I only DJ. Like I don't do anything else. Like so there's that to understand. Okay. So that was one person. And then the next person, like uh I'd hired to, test out, right? So I was like, okay, go to this gig and we'll test you out and see, see how if we like working with you, where you'll be there with somebody else, right? And then we'll just go through the event and see how it goes, right? So what had happened was I was at my Gary Sinise event on Saturday or Sunday, and I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this guy's picture come up, and I noticed the background. I was like, oh, okay, because it said something like, oh, I'm getting ready to do a wedding right now with this person, and it was a picture of an event of a building that I have I get referred out to, and then on my mind I was like, oh, is that place? Did he end up booking another wedding at this place? Like. I mean, I get referred out there. I mean, what are the chances of him, being there? Like after I'd already put him there. Like, how did that happen? So I went to the guy's page and then I scrolled down a little bit further, and well, I wanted to know if he was wearing the same outfit, from when I was there. But since he was with somebody else, I was texting that guy. I go, oh, did he wear this outfit? Right. So I scroll down further, and I'm like, oh, here's a selfie with those two guys, and here's a picture of a Hora Loca, which is like girls in fancy flower outfits, right? So there's three pictures there, and it says, oh, hire me. in my company name, not me, not my company name, his company name. And I was like, oh yeah. And I looked at the outfit. I'm like, yep, this is all the same event, but weeks apart. Like, and then I looked at the other picture and I was like, yeah, you're taking pictures of yourself and then posting your company. So before we go further, I really wanted to find out what internally I didn't like about that. Like other than just blatantly lying, right? Or was it lying? Because you're still doing an event, but you took a picture with my DJ and said it was your company. Like, so, so before I want to say this before if this video blows up, when this video blows up, and there's all these people hammering all these different ideas, right? So here's the deal: if you take a picture of yourself and you say, "Well, I'm DJ King," and you're at an event for another talent agency, right? It's still you. I understand that. Like I did a show for the NFL and it wasn't my company, but I was still there and I did the show for the NFL and I took a picture of it and said, "This is me." I didn't say this is what my company provides. I said this is me because I'm an artist first, right? I was an artist before I started building my own company. So, but I didn't say this is me, King Entertainment Events. Like I said, this is me, Scott King, right? Like, and then, if someone called me and asked me for that event, I'd be like, well, this is who booked me. But
Okay,
this guy took a picture of his own event, took a picture of my event with another DJ, and it was like, this is my company. So there's a difference there, right?
okay, I want to throw some stuff in. Okay, so uh, totally. A lot of times, what you can do with that too, you take that NFL picture, say, "I'm here working through whatever company," and you can
Sure.
take that selfie and do it. Now, here's a caveat to that. Sometimes you can't do that because sometimes they have rules where you're at that you can't put up any media who they are. Because I have some clients who are billionaires or and they don't want anything known about their parties at all. And if you put that on the media, you don't ever get to come back. You can't take pictures at their
Oh
events.
yeah, if you sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
so a lot of times, and the entertainer might not have known that. You might have had to sign something. The agent has to sign, yeah, we're not going to take pictures and put them all over the internet of your event, okay? But maybe the so in what I would say for both me, you, and everyone else, put it in that disclosure that at the beginning is the only way you can ever post any picture is with permission. You can't post any pictures from any of my events. Now, here's another thing that happened to me too. I had this girl out on an event, and she was on an elephant, taking pictures on an elephant. I can tell you that's not doing her job, but she put it on her website as it was hers. It was her event. Now, that's the same thing that Scott's talking about. So, in so we want to tell the entertainer, especially if they're new, they can't do that.
Well,
Go
there
ahead.
is one other caveat.
Okay, no, that's what we're talking.
So, and I want you to give me your take on this,
Okay.
right? So let's say that you do like I always like to use this example. Johnny Depp does a movie for Universal Studios, right? And let's say he wants to audition to do a Disney movie. Well, it's not like anybody can't look at the Universal movie to
Mhm.
see if he's good enough to do the Disney movie. Now, those are two competitor like places, right? But you're still just the talent, right? So maybe one talent agent was able to get him into Universal, and then it's a different one to go into Disney. But yet they don't own the movie, right? It's still there. It's still public view. Like you're good enough to do the Universal movie, so it's not like you couldn't look at it or say that that was you, right? To go audition for a Disney movie. Do you understand what
Okay,
I'm
and
saying? Do
that's
you understand what I'm saying?
I understand you're saying, okay, I'm an entity and people have already used me and you, but and unless you signed a disclosure, you can't say I was in that movie. You don't say
I mean, how do they not
I
know it
was
was
in a
you? I
movie.
mean, you are the actor in the movie.
Yeah, I did this movie. That's what you could say. I did this movie. And when I did that movie, I worked for these guys because that's just that simple. And you're not saying Okay, you're not
So
saying.
I will tell you why I say that, right?
Okay, yeah, let's see.
Because there was a DJ that worked for me, and he sent me pictures of a town, from gigs from another talent agency that he worked for, right?
Uh-huh.
So I put those on my website because the guy gave them to me. Now I didn't talk to the other talent agency. I mean, but these are gigs that he did, right? So I didn't know it was a big deal. So I put them up on the website, and then I get a call from the guy who actually those were my events. I own those pictures, and I was like, well, he was good enough to do those events. That means he's good enough to do other events. But by the time, I wasn't going to argue with the guy. I just took him down. Like,
Yeah,
but
I would cease and desist on something like that. I would say I wouldn't put pictures up of anybody's event except mine on my website because they can do a cease and desist if they can prove it's from their event. What I would do is I just put this is what this guy's done. Because if you go to my website, there's 1,000 client list. It says Coca-Cola, Pepsi. It says 30 cities we've worked for. It doesn't say who or what. It does say these emblems. So you can say that, and you don't have to say that. Just it's not going. You're not going to get in trouble by just saying I worked for the NFL, where whatever. I worked for Pizza Hut. I worked for Macy's. I worked for, and I did. I mean, that's just a little 1,000. That's just a very small group of people we've worked for.
so what would you say to somebody who's building their business and may have worked for somebody else as
Well,
they're trying to build their business?
again, that is unevasive and it's not saying anything really. It's just saying I'm an entertainer, I've done 1,000 gigs. You're not taking away from any agent or giving to any agent. So you have the right as an entertainer to make a living unless you signed exclusive
I mean, if you
contracts.
were going to make a press kit, you would use pictures from the events you did.
No, no, you can't use pictures without permission from anybody's event if it's not yours. That's just ethics.
Oh, unless you signed something before you started.
Yeah, if you signed it and said I'm not going to do it, but then when somebody like you says, I know you didn't know this, but now you know it.
Yeah, and then you bring him down and be like, "Hey,
Cease and
man,
desist, or
uh,
I don't hire you. And yeah, they can steal your pictures. You're probably not going to sue them, but you just don't hire them anymore. But the point is, without permission, you never stick because I can tell you, people have done that in my events. They said, "Oh, this was their event," and I just never used them, or I
yeah."
don't. So I mean, seriously, I've done that because they're going, "I'm here," and they're not saying they're not giving credit to the agent. Now, putting up hashtag, I always do Scott King's Entertainment right here, and we had a great gig, and I'm so glad that Scott hired us and hired me, and I appreciate the work. Now, and still, you shouldn't do that without asking Scott first if you can put media up, because again, he might have signed a contract that says you can't take any pictures at this event and put them on it, because they're actually, some places won't let you because they don't need to know that you're doing a private party at their house at this time. They don't want people to know they're doing a private party at their house at this time. So without permission, you just don't put any pictures up till you know who above you. I don't say you can't take a picture of yourself and let's say, but not with the emblem. You're in front of their house and you're in front of a big house or a house
Giving out their address.
because what you're doing a lot of times, and I'm okay with this with my entertainers, is they got a new costume and they take a picture because they want to keep that picture, and later on they put the picture of themselves in this because they want that costume to be seen. If it's not their costume, they don't have a right to do that. But if it's a costume they made because they want to advertise this costume, I have no problem with that, as long as they're not saying the place they're at. Because then they're establishing, if they're at a place, if they don't give credit to somebody else, then they're saying it's their event. So that's the caveat there. So when it's your event, you got
It's just nice when people ask
yes.
or on the same page. And
Yeah,
and
because
and this guy didn't ask. And then he was
right.
and well, he could even use those same pictures and not put any tags on it, and I would have been like, "Oh, okay, cool." Whatever. But it was like, "Oh, this is my company."
Right. So he lied.
So
False advertisement and a lie, because then it's
yeah, so
that he
okay. So based on what I've told you, who would you feel more comfortable going forward with?
Oh, you mean
Out of the two people that did it, one guy did two things, the other guy did one thing I didn't like. Like who would like I sat them both down and told like we had a long conversation about them a meal and stuff. But out of those two, if you had to flip a coin,
I'd
which
go
one would
the
you?
guy. I would hire the guy who went overtime
Yeah,
because
that's what I was
because
saying.
the reason why he didn't know and he thought he was doing right. Okay, the intent was there. Okay,
Yeah.
the other guy actually did. He lied. He actually in his advertisement he lied that it was his. So the other guy's lying. The other guy's just doesn't know the rules. Now I can tell you I've stayed 10 minutes over, and sometimes you
Yeah, I know.
have to, or you get let's say you had a line, you're a ballooner or a face painter or anything that gives out something. Okay. And you didn't close your line right, which is your fault. You need to have a little sign says this sign closes at this time. You have to have all these things to make sure everybody who's in line gets to whatever they got. Okay, unless you have a sign, we're going to be gone this time, and sorry if you're past this line. What we do, we say this is the last person in line. If you do not have a ticket in your hand, you can't get back because people will keep on getting in line, and
Yeah,
then
you
they'll
could be
get
there
mad.
forever.
Right.
Be
So
there.
you got to close your line right. Let's just say you were off and you were a ballooner and you didn't realize that you were going to do two balloon things for all of them, but you thought you were going to do one. But they said, well, you gave him a heart and a heart or whatever balloon they got.
And then it'll
So
never
you
end. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you stay 10 minutes over because it's your bad and you don't get a complaint. And you don't charge your client any of that because it was your fault. I can see that. Um, Here's another scenario which I hate. Urgh, I hate this. Okay, you get there, but it's not your fault, but you're 5 or 10 minutes late. But I mean, it's really not your fault. Oh, you were there even 30 minutes early, but something happens and then you don't start on time, 5 or 10 minutes, and then you stay that 5 to 10 minutes over and you don't charge them. Sometimes that does happen, and I'd say about 40 times in our career, but 40 years. We're talking 40 years. So that's not a lot. So what we really want to do is really want to cut that line right. And then for anybody giving out, that'd be popcorn or little tags or stickers or glitter or whatever they're giving away. You want to cut your because again, like we will go back to Scott a while ago, is that if you give them extra time, next time they won't even hire that time. They'll just expect you to stay over, and the other person might have another event they have to go to. So just because a client wants you to stay doesn't mean you have to stay because the rule is you hire time. Because a lot of times my entertainers have a certain amount of time to get to the next event. So they have to get out of your event, pack up, go to the next event, and be there on time. So unless they hire that time for my entertainers, they're not responsible for staying the overtime. But if they say yes to the overtime and the client says yes to them, they can stay as long as the client's going to pay them. Because what that does, if he, let's just say he stays over, but they give him a big tip, that knocks out the client, that knocks out the agent. The agent should, the time should get the same price because they got more time. The agent should get more money too. Because then what entertainers can do, they can do their gig, but they stay over 2 hours and they usually get a tip for that, but they're not including it in the area of the agent. And that's not only my agency, everybody's agency. You then that's another blackball offense because you're cheating. You know, I I only have one person I let stay over, and he's the best of the best of the best, and his brain says, "Well, I just want to treat the customer right," and he is so good. And this is the only person I'll let do it. Only one in my whole crew of anybody I hire, and he's so good, and everybody loves him, and he can get away with it. Now, I would say to 99 other entertainers that I work with or something like that, I wouldn't let him do it. But I do let one person because sometimes you got to give in when they're the best, and it's like if you want this person to work, they're going to do their ethics, which I like people with ethics. Would say I'm there for the client who, I want to make them happy. And this guy knows if he stays even over an hour or 2 hours, if they don't want to pay him, he doesn't get paid. But everybody wants to pay him. Everybody. Oh, we got to pay him. They'll call me up and say, I got to pay this guy. Oh my gosh. And so I'm like, oh, so I can't tell him no. I mean, he's the only person. I mean, literally, have you ever had a client call you? I want to pay him. I need to pay this guy. I was like, well, what? Yeah, he's
No.
over, and we want to even make sure he gets all of it. We want, you know, and I'm like, shoot. So
All right.
that's it's sort of like if like you did a DJ and they say, oh my God, he stayed over 15 minutes. We need to pay him for an extra hour at least, two, maybe 2 hours. Oh my gosh, he made the event. I would never, if ever we hire, we want him again. We want that guy. That's the guy we want, no matter what. And we
Well,
want to pre-book for next year to get him right now. Can we pre-book him for next year? And it's not exactly that way, but it kind of is. And almost every single time this guy goes out, the next year he gets another one of him with him, and the next year another one and another. So by the time 6 or 7 years has gone by, we have 8 entertainers out instead of just one. So
wow.
you just cannot. Then so he breaks my rule, but he's the only one.
Well, there you have it. Any closing notes?
Uh, yeah, I would say the notes at the end is say, look, especially if you're an entertainment company,
Yeah.
uh, look at look at every way to see if your entertainer really did wrong. And was it with intent? Was it really irresponsibility? And do this. I'm going to tell you early on, like the first 10 years before 40 years in, I would I because I'm an entertainer too, and I have really strict. I mean, I think I've been late 2 times in my 40 years, 2 times, and I told them I was going to be late. So because I'm usually an hour to 2 hours early to anything, because I can't afford not to be because I got such an ego. Anyway, so what I was expecting perfect because if I'd have as an entertainer, I wasn't perfect and I shouldn't be an entertainer. So I put that standard on everybody in my company. But I can tell you a lot of times it just can't be done. And uh, if somebody's just a minute late, I'm like, because you should have been there earlier. And truthfully, I've had somebody 5 minutes late who just had a wreck and they stuck their bumper in their car to get there on time. Seriously, this is the truth. And but I'm a little better than I was. I was really, really anal at the first, but I still am anal. But I'm not. If somebody's been with me 20 years and they make a mistake, and I had that happen, uh, they made a mistake and they said the client said we never want him back. He was too snarky to our president, you know. And I said okay, but I have 8 other entertainers at this event. I said he'll never come back. And but I told him, hey, this doesn't. You've been working with me over 20 years. This doesn't hurt any of the other gigs. You just can't come back to this one because you've proved yourself over and over and over and over again. And yeah, you might have been too snarky to this guy, but you've done it 20 years and you've been snarky to everybody. I'm okay with it because sometimes that's just who they are. And as long as if they've done two to three, 400 events with you and you get one complaint, it's usually whatever it is. You keep your entertainer. You do, and sometimes it's okay to lose a client over an entertainer if they have that kind of reputation. Because what Scott does, and I love this when he talks to me, he says, "My team," and when you say that, that says it all. They're your team, and you work together and you play together, and when something comes up, you fix it because a team does that. Okay, so that's what Scott's got, and he's getting a better team all the time. And so that's what I would say to you guys out there. If you, whatever you do, what if you're hiring people or whatever you have, you're selling, make sure they're doing the best they can. And when things do occur, we go talk to them. We say, yeah, you made a mess up here, but let's not do that again. And even on this other event of mine, what we were talking about before, I did not tell the, I did not go to the entertainer who's been doing this 30 years that he shouldn't drink at an event. Okay, now with that said, since I didn't tell him that, you know, but I would have assumed. Now, anyway, he's been doing this 30 years, and he probably should know if he can drink a drink and do the gig. He's performed all over the place. I mean, in Vegas and everywhere. So I would assume he knows what he can do and not do. And again, let's stop assuming and let's put a
Yeah.
list out there and say, here it is. This is the rules. And if you abide
It's
by the
really
rules,
kind of sad. You have to go
yeah,
over all, yeah, but you
but you
do.
have to. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
because then we assumed, and then it's on me too. I mean, so it falls back the
Yeah.
responsibility back on me because I would assume, and and you don't crucify anybody or make do anything until you find out what the real truth is. Just because they say a certain thing, the client says a certain thing. The first person who talked to me wasn't even at the event. And all she said is, these guys said this. Yeah, somebody said this. And oh, and somebody said this. And I said, okay, did anybody see that? No, we didn't see it, but we heard about it. I want somebody who's seen it and I want somebody who did it. And then I'll know. That's what I told him. So I'll go fight that and we'll talk about it again.
All right. Yeah, I'm
Have a
sure that
good
won't go
day,
anywhere.
guys. You
Yeah.
guys are awesome.
I got to get back to my to-dos. So we still got to get through this weekend. So thanks
Okay.
guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay tuned. We'll find out what happens.